Hello there, welcome to Mindset Talk with me, your host Jabu Zwane. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's a nice and cloudy day in Pretoria, and it's been warm, it's been raining. Much welcome. Intervention from the heavens to pull us down with this really crazy heat. But anyway, not here to talk about weather. It's been a while since we last talked to each other, or at least since I last talked to you. And that's a very important topic that I wanted to talk to you about this morning. Before I do that, just to introduce again, Mindset Talk is a talk. It's a podcast that is based on a framework that I've developed that is called Mindset Solutions Framework. And it concentrates on helping people to understand what are mindsets, what is the purpose of mindsets, how do they form, and how can we best create the kind of mindsets that we need to build the life that we would love to live. And along on the same tone, it was just very interesting to me that, so many of us spend so much of our time looking to be successful, trying to be successful. We go to work, we study, we train, we go to various trainings, we go to various orientations, we attend different types of seminars. Some of us maybe have mentors, some of us have coaches, some of us have just people that we hang around with, which have become a source of improving our skills, improving our knowledge, people that we can learn from, becoming a source of our education. And I was just wondering, in that very same thought, like how many of us really are preparing ourselves for the success that we are trying to achieve? What do I mean by that? I mean, so many of us really spend a lot of our time in acquiring all the technical skills, all the knowledge and that we need to be successful in life, to be promoted, to acquire the degrees that we need to acquire. And then we get to that place of success. Maybe we get that promotion, or maybe we land that big contract that we're trying to land. Maybe some people are professional athletes, which was actually quite an interesting and a fascinating study for me, which I'm going to share a couple of finds from that. Of course, my good friend, my expert research tool, Google, my friend. I'm going to be sharing some interesting stats with you guys this morning. But the thought is, how many of us really are transforming ourselves into the kind of people that we need to be when we reach that level of success? How many of us are transforming ourselves to be the perfectly suited people for the kind of success that we are trying to achieve? With that thought in mind, I want you to consider a few things. I'm going to start off first of all with instant success. Instant success, or maybe instant relief from the struggles, financial struggles specifically, in a form of a lottery. I was actually reading some stats in preparation for this podcast this morning. Here it says, Reynard.org, it says, lottery winners are more likely to declare bankruptcy within the 3 to 5 years than the average American. Lottery winners are more likely to declare bankruptcy within 3 to 5 years than the average working American. Nearly 1/3 of lottery winners eventually declare bankruptcy. 20% of all the lottery players account for 71% of a lottery income. Interesting stat. 20% of the lottery players account for 71% of the lottery income. And Americans spend on average $206.69 on lottery tickets each year. That's probably going to work out to about 3,000 Rand a year that an average American spends on buying lottery tickets. Lottery winners' statements. I want to read a few for you. William Budd was one of the lottery winners in 1998. But he posted a win of $16.2 million, which is about, let's say, 33 million Rand in 1988. But he was $1 million in debt within a year of acquiring his winnings. And he said, I wish it never happened. It was a total nightmare. In 2004, Sharon Tirabasi, a single mother who had been on welfare, cashed a check from the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corp of more than $10 million Canadian dollars, which was about 120 million Rand. Yeah, about 120 million rand. Oh, the 16.2 million rand dollars is not 32 million. It's actually about 320 million rand. So 10 million Canadian dollars, you look at about 120 million rand. She spent her winnings on a big house, fancy cars, designer clothes, lavish parties, exotic trips, handouts to families, loans to friends, and in less than a decade, she was back riding the bus, working part-time, and living in a rented house. Billy Bob Harrell, the last one, had his prayers answered, but his luck ran out after he couldn't say no. Now, he was a preacher, a pastor, like me. And at first, life was good, with Billy Bob reportedly quitting his job, traveling to Hawaii, and buying a ranch, 6 other homes, and new cars. He donated 480 turkeys to the poor, according to Time magazine. 480 turkeys to the poor. Wow, what a generous guy. Media reports from the Time, media reports say that media reports from the Times say he eventually divorced and died by suicide. He killed himself. And shortly before his death, he told financial advisor that winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now, these are people who were instantly taken out of their positions of being destitute. Maybe we could actually think maybe of somebody who's acquiring a big contract. You get that big contract that instantly gets you out of the financial fix that you're currently in. Are you prepared? Are you perfectly suited to be the kind of person that is needed to handle that kind of money, to handle that kind of fame, to handle that kind of responsibility? We'll go into that just now. Now, some more interesting stats now is looking at pro athletes and bankruptcy, professional athletes and bankruptcy. Now, I've got a lot of stats from the United States. Unfortunately, I don't really get a lot of stats from South Africa, but I'm sure it's the same. If you can think of some of our athletes here in South Africa, even some of our musicians who shot to fame, made a lot of money, and found themselves in similar situations as the ones that I'm going to read about now. It says, according to a 2009, this is 10 years ago, wow. 2009 Sports Illustrated article, 35% of National Football League players, which are the American football players, are either bankrupt or under financial stress within 2 years of retirement, and an estimated 60% of the National Basketball Association, which is NBA players, go bankrupt within 5 years after leaving the sport. The latest to join the ranks, which was back then, was Allen Iverson. Man, what a talent. After earning a whopping $154 million. That's about 1.7 billion rand. No, it's actually more. It's 1.5. So it's about 2.2 billion. About $2.2 billion. 2.2 billion rand, I'm sorry. And even more through sports dealerships, Iverson is now broke. A judge recently ordered Iverson to pay jewelry of $860,000. But once he revealed that he couldn't pay, the judge ordered that his bank account be seized. Marion Jones, we know Marion Jones was one of my favorites. I really, really like this woman. Marion Jones was a 3-time gold medalist, making more than $7 million per year until she was indicted on a check fraud and an IRS forgery charges, which should be like our SARS equivalent here, among other problems. She lost all her medals and later filed for bankruptcy after serving 6 months in jail. Finally, the one who was once worth about $400 million, that is our dear Mike Tyson. That's about 6 billion rand. He later had less than $700 to his name. He had less than $700. Yeah, that's less than 20,000. Less than 20,000. No, not even less than 10. I'm sorry, less than 10,000. Less than 10,000 rand to his name, from 400 million that he had made, which is about 6 billion, to less than 10,000 rand to his name. Mike Tyson. After spending time in jail for rape and dealing with a wealth of other problems, Tyson has slowly recovered and is still worth a fraction of what he once was. Okay, he was able to recover, but he doesn't have as much money as what he currently has. Now, one of the reasons why I started going down this lane is because, for the Professional Speakers Association, I'm going to be one of the 12 speakers who are going to sort of be wrapping up at the end of the year. And my topic is going to be on transforming into success one step at a time. Transforming into success one step at a time. And in preparation for that talk, which needs to be only 5 minutes, speak for 5 minutes. Oh my goodness, that's going to be a tough one. You're asking a pastor to speak for 5 minutes, or a speaker for that matter, to speak for 5 minutes. That's going to be a tough one. But anyway, in preparation for that, for the talk, I found myself going down through this and asking myself quite a couple of questions and looking at my own personal life and asking myself, like, okay, what happens? What happens when we become successful? What happens when we get promoted? What happens when you get that job that you've been preparing for all this time? What happens when you move from not having a job to now having a job and now making thousands and thousands of rands more than what you used to before? Why is it that so many of us move from making nothing to having so much more and then struggling to maintain the much more that we have? And I was just thinking, of course, about the extreme cases, the extreme examples that we can think about in the form of our famous people, the Michael Jacksons of this world, the Whitney Houstons of this world. I mean, there's so many. I was listening to the other day to Pamela Nomvete. I don't remember, you guys can remember her from back in the day, Generations. For those of you who can remember the Generation Soapy. At one time I was listening to a story on Radio 72 talking about from her, from how she dropped from being this top actress who was being well paid to having absolutely nothing and now having to work her way up. You can think about people like Jabu Zwane. We can think about recently the death of Phil Masinga, who literally passed away with absolutely nothing. And of course, Brenda Fassie and so many others. Now, there is something that happens here where we are working towards something. We're working towards something which supposedly is going to be bettering our lives. And often what we're working for is financial. Of course, we're looking to earn more money through promotions, through contracts, through if you are, for example, in the sphere that I'm in of being a pastor or being a speaker, you're building a church. Although you don't build a church to earn an income, I mean, at least not not for the most part, not the majority of the pastors that I know. That's not why we're in the business. We're not in the business to become rich, although we are overshadowed, of course, by the flamboyant, the grandiose, pastors that are out there who are mega pastors and who have made millions from the business of church. The majority of pastors are not in that position. But anyway, let's say like in speaking here, I mean, I'm trying to build and working my way up. And what happens when you become famous and then you become in demand and you are beginning to command those thousands and thousands of rands per hour that other top speakers are demanding, and all of a sudden you move from trickling hundreds of rands throughout the month to now tens of thousands of rands, constantly coming into your accounts. Anyway, what are you going to do? Are you ready? Are you ready for that promotion? Are you ready for that contract that you're looking to have? Are you ready for, that change that you're working towards? Most of us are not. So most of us are not ready for the success that we are working towards. And this is now, I'm reading a little bit from the article that I posted the other day and covering a little bit of also the content that I'm going to be, that I'm still chewing on. I'm still meditating on this. I'm still working on it in my mind in preparation of my talk next week with many of the speakers that are going to be there. I'm so looking forward to that, to hear what 11 other speakers have to say, and especially in helping, I suppose those of us who are new in the business on how we can navigate this profession and be able to make, inroads in the speaking profession. All right, now, as I was saying, most of us are not ready for the success that we're working towards, and this is primarily caused by, A disproportionately concentrated focus on technical fitness and less on personal fitness needed to manage and sustain our material success. We often reduce success to material acquisition, and we pay very little attention or no attention at all to intellectual, emotional, mental, and for those of us who are spiritual preparedness for the success. What does that mean? It means that we are working so much on the technical skills, on the knowledge that we acquire through the book or through training, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, not ready for what that means. And the end result is that material and our professional success runs ahead of us. All right? Our material and professional success runs ahead of us. We find ourselves overwhelmed by the changes that success brings, falling short intellectually, emotionally, and mentally. One of the areas that we may not be ready in is relationships. Now, in relationship, the power dynamics that may change in these partnerships, in marriages, in friendships, and the emotional and mental adjustments that we need to make in the process of the change as it comes along. Now, the power dynamics may change along the lines of income, along the lines of prestige in society, owing to now being at a higher level of authority and influence. And of course, time demands, which impacts your availability for your close relationships, such as marriages, friendships, and all that, especially marriages, or at least intimate relationships. We may find ourselves losing our support structures as pressures caused by these misunderstandings, by expectations, and by guilt, and other overwhelming emotions that lead often to being disconnected with those that we care about. Now, this disconnection may lead to alienation and even emotional detachment as intimacy gets affected in our relationships. Now, these pressures may also spill over into they may spill over into financial stresses, because at this particular point, when money starts trickling in and money starts coming in fast and furiously, we need a high IQ. We need to acquire higher financial intelligence to manage the increased income. If we have poor IQ or financial IQ, we fall short of efficiency in managing the exponential increase in our income. So in other words, we don't have enough financial intelligence to handle the increased income. This failure makes us vulnerable to making costly financial mistakes, leading to new areas of vulnerability. When you make financial mistakes, you become vulnerable in many other areas. These pressures also bear heavily on our emotions, compromising our emotional intelligence in the process. Now, when you're stepping into success one step at a time, it means that you need to be deliberately aware of how you're entering into your phase of success. You need to have conscious awareness, be cognizant of the fact that you're stepping into a new level of your being, where there are going to be new experiences. And you need to be cognizant of how any degree of success will impact your life, specifically in very important areas, such as in relationships, finances, emotions, and these are areas that you need to be functional and to be efficient in your everyday, or in your day-to-day living, day-to-day experiences. Now, these functional areas I'm going to cover in two categories: internal factors and external factors. Functional areas are areas that we need or that we have relied on to function properly. These areas, they contribute positively to our well-being, and they have more than likely contributed positively to our success or in our process of success. What are some of these internal factors? There will be a process of personal transformation that one needs to go through in order to be functionally fit to operate at this level of new success. Some of these changes will be instantly clear, like one needs to understand their implications, because these implications will be explicit as they impose themselves without a warning, such as something as simple as the frequency of decisions that you've got to make now that you are in a position of authority. The degree of importance of those decisions now that you are the one that you've got to make them. You begin to realize how, where, and who they're going to impact, how much they're going to impact, and that is quite clear and that imposes itself sort of in a sobering way once you step into that level of success. And all of a sudden you are aware of who you have become in the process and how the power dynamics have changed. When you're unprepared for this, your margin and frequency of error can be very costly. Furthermore, aiding to your stress and anxiety. Below are two of the most important factors to build on instantly and throughout your process of success. The first one, of course, as I've already mentioned, is your intelligence, your technical intelligence. You need financial IQ, you need technical IQ, you need to improve on your knowledge of the position that you've stepped into, the level of success that you've stepped into. You've got to have technical knowledge on how to navigate some of the laws that are cast in stone in that environment. IQ is more a science and can be acquired in the process of integrating yourself into your new environment. Poor IQ for a new role or success can very quickly present you as being incompetent to your colleagues and compatriots. Get on a skills and knowledge development path. The nature of success is such that most of what we need, we learn in the process, or once we have stepped up to the podium of our success. We may have learned quite a bit technically to get there, but not nearly enough, since we are stepping into a rapidly changing environment. Now, oftentimes when you go higher on the success ladder, if I can put it that way, things are beginning to move very fast. They move fast for a couple of reasons. The amount of work that you're now having to deal with, the amount of decisions that you're now having to make, the magnanimity or the magnitude, the size of decisions that you now have to make, the implications. And so all of that contributes to your experience of time. Now all of a sudden you realize how important your time allocation should be or is. The second part is that you're going to work on is your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, specifically managing our own emotions. And this is brought out and experienced as the events at this new level of success unfolds. Right? Emotions can be tricky as you navigate new dynamics in your new level of success. And some of these emotional tensions can only come out in this new space. So learning how to navigate them and remain steady and stable will be the differentiating factor on how you get settled in. I'm going to say that again. Learning how to navigate them and remain steady and stable in your temperament will be the differentiating factor of how you get settled in. It would be very helpful, and I strongly recommend this, it would be very helpful to be under some kind of mentorship or sign up for some structured program to help you to manage your process as you grow into this new exciting space. Being with credible, competent, and well-meaning people who have the experience and are generous with sharing their knowledge could be extremely valuable for you. So you might find that you have to develop new relationships. Now, the second part, the second category we are talking about here is external factors. External factors, which meaning that now it's not just about you, but it's also, it begins to, you're beginning to connect with other factors outside yourself. Now, the first one is our relationships. Our relationship landscape changes with each level of success. There are three types of relationships to consider in this process. The first one is those relationships which remain vital at all levels. So these are relationships that you cannot let go. Like you're married, like you've got children, you have friends that you've been with for a very long time. These are maybe if you're somebody who's in a church environment, maybe your pastor, maybe your mentor. These are relationships that are vital for you. But especially, let's just simplify it, family relationships and close relationships that you've had for a very long time. Secondly, those relationships that will be lost on those whose roles will be drastically altered by virtue of you being in this new space of success or level of success. Some relationships are going to be not as relevant as what they used to be. and of course you would have outgrown them, or they would outgrow you, or there'll be tension and conflict that is beyond resolution, and you'd find that those relationships you have to let go. And then lastly, but not least, is new relationships that will be made at each level of success. So each level that you progress into, you find that there are new relationships that you've got to make with your new boss, with the people at that particular level, and whatever that environment is going to take you into. You might find that you have to now develop new relationships as a way of being completely integrated into your new level of success. In relationships, there are factors that will be affected, which will be which will have an impact on your experience. Number one, I've mentioned it before, but just to go into it again, power dynamics. Economically accounting for the economic dynamic, the economic power dynamic will account for the majority of the stake. And positional authority, which means your significance, and specifically also regarding decisions that you're going to make, specifically regarding the voice that you now have, the influence that you now have. So in a relationship, for example, let's think about marriage. When in a marriage situation, one of the, maybe a wife or husband gets promoted, now has more money, maybe double the money of the other spouse. In the home, the power dynamics change. Economically, the husband or the wife, the one who is promoted, now has a bigger muscle economically. And we have to be realistic here. That often also means that their position of authority in the family changes. That also means that their voice now changes, because now all of a sudden some decisions have got to be made financially. And what if the other spouse had certain personal aspirations which may not necessarily be congruent or in congruency to what you plan to do together, or what you had planned to do together as a couple prior to the promotion? Maybe the husband now wants to buy a fancier car, and the wife is thinking, what, we need to pay the house off. And that causes tension, that causes conflict. How do you manage that? How do you manage the change in the power dynamic? What happens actually if it is a wife that is now earning double the amount of money than the husband, or as the husband? There are so many elements that come in with that kind of change. How do you balance the power dynamics in that case, now that your wife is earning twice the amount of money, or more than what you're currently earning, and is in a much higher, more influential position? How do you as a wife handle that? The fact that maybe in the workplace now you've got so much influence and so much authority, and then you come into the family home and the power dynamics as far as influence and authority change. I'm not trying to give answers here. I'm just asking questions as a way of provoking a little bit of thinking here. And of course, from power dynamics, the second one is time allocation, meaning the time that is available. Time availability, as it is impacted by obligations at the new level of success, can become significant in creating a significant area of tension. It can be a significant source of tension in the relationship. So one needs to be very prudent in time allocation between the demands of the role that you are now in, against the current norms, against the current allocation of time to various activities, such as going out, such as spending time together with the family, and even working together on some tasks and projects that you had ongoing before or prior to their success. Especially in a vital, long-standing relationship, there will be some adjustments that need to be made. So consultation with those in vital relationships and negotiations with the powers that be, or time demands in the current new space, will be necessary. You may need to consult with your powers that be to negotiate and how you're going to navigate what this change will mean for your vital relationships. Failure to navigate these dynamics in a way that is functionally suited for the landscape of your relationship can cause significant stress and anxiety. So the environment will also bring the new factors that were not part of your experience prior to your rise. So this environment brings with it, among other factors to consider, culture, language, social norms and standards, politics, and more. The new environment can be overwhelming and can become a great source of anxiety and stress if one is not prepared for it. So there will be new environmental practices that are not clearly articulated, but are well understood by those who are in that environment. Almost like unwritten codes of conduct by everyone. And then you find that you're walking into these things and there are these unwritten rules, and everybody seems to understand them, but because you're new and because they're not clearly articulated, you can find yourself completely out of space. You can find yourself feeling uncomfortable and being judged and feeling a bit silly or stupid when you don't pick up what everybody's putting down. So this is where mentorship or some kind of orientation process can become very helpful. Look, I mean, there's so much that one can say about this. I just wanted to share with you as I'm churning in my mind this content that I want to share at the Professional Speakers Association on how one can prepare themselves. How can you transform as you're stepping into success? Transforming yourself into success one step at a time. Success is a great thing. Success is a positive thing. But I hope that as you have listened to this podcast, you realize that there is a strong argument, there is a strong case for you as a person to also prepare for yourself emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and otherwise, far beyond your technical preparedness, your IQ preparedness for the work that you do. Because, I mean, for the most part, if you are, for example, in a job and you have been working towards a promotion, a lot of the technical knowledge you would have already acquired. However, once you step into that role, is a whole different experience altogether. When friends start pulling away from you, start calling you names, you used to be the one that is mocking your boss, but now you are the one that is being mocked. You are the one that has been looked at with the judgmental eye. You are now the villain. You are now the villain, and conspiracies now are being made against you. And sometimes from the people that you used to share a circle with, and have a bite with you lunchtime, now all of a sudden you can't have that. Your lunchtime experiences are not as fun anymore. There's tension that is there. That's just one of the few things that I wanted to just talk about. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this has been quite helpful. I hope it has provoked you to think about a whole range of things that you can embark on in preparation of your success, or as you walking your way up the ladder, as you're stepping into your levels, as you're getting elevated, whatever other terminology that you want to use for that. My name is Jabu Zwane from Mindset Talk. Mindset Talk, again, is a podcast that focuses on helping people to understand what are mindsets, what is the function of mindsets in our lives, how do they form, and how can you best create the kind of mindsets that you need for the kind of life that you are trying to live. I will be doing another podcast hopefully soon. I hope you have enjoyed this one. Have a blessed day. Thank you.